Thank you guys for coming. We have a big crowd today, so I'm really honored to be talking to you today about Canada and Morocco. I know this was broadcast as just Canada, but last minute change. I'm going to be talking about both my countries, Canada and Morocco, so I hope you like it. So a little bit of backstory. So I was born in Casablanca, Morocco, and then my family and I immigrated to Montreal, Canada when I was 9. So that was a while ago, but I still go back every year, so I have a pretty close connection still with my home country. And yeah, so Morocco is in North Africa, and we have a little bit of Mediterranean Sea, a little bit of the Atlantic. So, but it's a stark contrast from country to country. So Canada, there's about 37.5 million people. It's about the same size as the US. We have a federal and a provincial government, and we are officially bilingual, but that doesn't mean that everybody speaks both languages, and we'll see that in a second. So the true stereotypes about Canada, it is really cold. We do love hockey. I don't, but everybody loves hockey. They go crazy for hockey. We love poutine, and then we are extra nice and polite. And I found out this year after coming to the US that we do say a lot. So about Morocco, so there's also like about 36 million people, which is about the same as Canada, which is crazy. But then that all fits into about the size of Texas. So it's a little bit crowded. We are a Muslim country. We do have a monarchy. I'll talk to you a little bit about our king in a second. And we were colonized by both Spain and France. We got our independence in 1956, and we have been independent ever since. Now, the true stereotypes about Morocco, we do hospitality like no other. You might have heard about Moroccan hospitality. It is super true. I'll put some links of vlogs in the chat of like tourists going to Morocco and being welcomed in like Moroccans' homes, and it's really great. And then our Arabic is quite different from classic Arabic. It is a great place to vacation in, and we are quite patriotic. Not as much as in the States, I would say, but close enough. So politics. In Canada, we have Justin Trudeau, who has a liberal government. Now, I know liberal doesn't really exist necessarily in the US. You guys have Democrat, Republican. Liberal is more like, it's more a Democrat, but geared towards the economy. So you could say that it's kind of a left government. He's been prime minister since 2015, but every province has their own prime minister as well, and we do listen to them to a certain extent. Like for right now with COVID, for example, the prime minister of Quebec is in charge of deciding the curfew, and Justin Trudeau cannot say anything about that, even though he's the prime minister. This is because we have a power that is shared according to competencies between like provinces and then the federal government as well. If there's anything that you guys are curious about, feel free to drop it in the chat and I will try to answer at the end. For Morocco, we have a kingdom. So it's the kingdom of Morocco. We have the king Mohammed VI, and he's been the king since 1999. So technically, we do have a parliament as well. Technically, it is shared between the king and the parliament, but the king has the ultimate word on pretty much everything. Now, it's not really a dictator because I find it quite fair what he decides, and he's quite well liked by his people, mostly because he's the reason why like Morocco is so well known right now, because he really increased and developed the touristic industry. Before him, tourism, we did like, we went and discovered the country, but we didn't have so many foreigners coming. Colonization in Canada. Now, this is the dark side of Canada that we don't really like to talk about that much, but I think it's quite important to know. There were indigenous people, of course, before Canada was discovered. And that means that, I mean, for the colonization process to happen, we did something that like we really try not to talk about, but I will talk about it today. It's called residential schools. It's only a 20-minute presentation today, so I'm only giving you a little bit of like things that you can look up yourself, but this is really interesting, but it's very deep. So if you want to go in, there's so many resources. The best one is this book called Indigenous Rights by Chelsea Vowell, which explains to you like in very simple English, like the colonization history of Canada. So residential schools are schools where they forcibly took the children from their parents and then they put them in their schools and they literally stripped them from their identity, religion, language, and there was a little bit of sexual abuse in there, and it was really bad. Now, the racism kind of continues, I guess. We still have like systemic racism in healthcare. Last year, there was this lady, her name was Joyce Echaquan, and she passed away because the nurses were negligent because they were racist against Indigenous peoples. That was like really, really a big event that happened last year in Quebec. So take a look at it. Consequences is still like alive and well today, I would say, unfortunately. For Morocco, like I said, we were colonized by Spain and France. And then this is actually why many of us speak French fluently. Like the only reason I'm a French teacher, unfortunately, is because we were colonized by France. So here, as you can see on the map, Spain colonized like the very north of Morocco and then the very south of Morocco. The center and like where most of the economic activity was actually the French zone. So this is interesting because this also shaped our Arabic. The Moroccan dialect is called Darija. Now, a wheel in classic Arabic is called Ajala, but in Moroccan, Darija is called Rueda, which is the same as Spanish. For those of you who speak Spanish, it's Rueda in Spanish. So as you can see, like there's words that we literally just took from the language. Same for like a box. A box in classic Arabic is Ulba, but in Moroccan Darija is Boata, and in French, it comes from French boîte. For my French students here, as you can see, like it's really interesting. So this also means that, hold on, yeah. If I go to this map, like classic Arabic, for those of you who are taking Arabic in this Zoom, classic Arabic, the one we teach you in school, like nobody really speaks it. That's a language that is spoken, that is read and written, and you might hear it in the news, but nobody really speaks the pure Arabic that we teach you in school. However, the closer you are to like Syria, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the closer it gets to the classic Arabic. But the further you go, and we are like super far, we're the furthest, the more that we can't understand from the classic Arabic. So for example, if a Syrian person comes to Morocco, they won't understand our dialect, but we will understand 100% what they're saying. So I would have to adapt my language so that like I would have to speak a classic form of Arabic so that we understand each other. Okay. So speaking of languages, the official languages of Morocco are the following. We have Darija, which is the Moroccan dialect. And cool fact, the accents vary depending on the city. It's really interesting. Like you guys have like the accent of the South and then New York accent and et cetera, et cetera. Like we're a small country and like every city has its own accent. I'm from Casablanca, so it's kind of like the equivalent of New York accent. But then the people in Marrakesh, like their phonemes are completely different. There's a few letters that they can't pronounce. It's really cool. And we can like recognize where we're from based on the accent that we have. Then we have classic Arabic, which is taught in school. I can speak it, not so well because I immigrated and I lost a little bit of it, but I can write it, I can read it. That's the language I would hear in the news. And then we have what we call Shelha or Berber, which are our indigenous languages. Now, there are variations in language according to the region. So for example, these two places right here, they speak an indigenous language plus Darija plus classic Arabic. So my grandparents from my dad's side, they come from here and they speak like Moroccan Arabic, classic Arabic, Rifi, French, and so on and so on. But I don't speak any indigenous language because I grew up in this city and I never heard it really. Now the spoken languages that are not official. There's French. Most people speak French, but we just don't want to like recognize it in our government because we were colonized and we have a lot of pride, so we're not going to ever going to admit that it's an official language. And Spanish, people in the north speak Spanish fluently, not everybody, and then a lot of people will take Spanish in school, but not everyone. English is taught in schools as a foreign language. I speak very good English because I went to Canada, but if I grew up only in Morocco, it would probably not be as good as right now. So the average young Moroccan speaks Darija. Let's say if they're from here, Fes, they would speak Darija, classic Arabic, French. They probably speak Berber, understand it at least, and then they manage in English for sure. So that's your little preview, I guess, of languages. Now in Canada, we say we're bilingual, we claim we are, and we're super proud, but it's not 100% true because as you can see in red, all the people in red, they speak English only. They will take French as a second language in school. They might take French immersion, but they're usually not fluent in French, unfortunately. But if you go to Quebec, Quebec is the opposite. People speak French. They mostly manage in English. Some, especially in the big cities, they are perfectly bilingual, but it's very political. As you can see, we are surviving here as Francophones because it's a minority language in a minority province. So we are trying to like not teach English as much in schools and whatnot. But yeah, so languages like they coexist in a way, but as you can see, like in Vancouver, for example, only 1% of people are actually like Francophones and whatnot. Voila. So there's also indigenous languages in the north of Quebec and the north of Canada, like Yukon and Nunavut, etc. Map of the Francophone world. So as you guys know now, you know that Morocco, we speak Arabic, French, sorry, and Arabic. But for French, we speak French in Morocco, but also Algeria, Tunisia, all these countries because they were colonized by France and Belgium, and then Quebec as well, etc. But all these places as well, they speak a certain amount of French as well. And as for Arabic, then it's pretty much the Arabian Peninsula plus North Africa that speaks Arabic. Now, growing up, I've been asked the following question a lot, and this is kind of like the theme of this presentation. My grandpa especially, like every summer. So, which one do you like now, Canada or Morocco? Canada or Morocco? And every year my answer would change as I would grow up. And today, like I still don't know, to be honest, which one I like the best. Because they're asking me to choose, like, do you like the snow? Do you like the beach? And well, it's obviously the beach, but like there's also different things to consider, like the food, the lifestyle, safety, things like that, opportunities. There's so many, it's a big question. So today I kind of took a bit of a gamification approach on it, and we're gonna have a showdown, but don't cite me on this because these are my personal opinions. So we're gonna have a showdown between Canada and Morocco. And the way we're going to do it is going to be by filling these two glasses. One we're going to fill with Tim Hortons because Canada, and I'll tell you about it in a second. And the other one we're going to fill with tea, which is called in Moroccan Arabic, atay. So let's go and take a look at what these drinks are. Atay. Atay is basically just means tea in Moroccan Arabic. The actual tea that is inside is just black tea from China. And then we just add mint. Mint is optional, but highly recommended. Not everybody does it though. And then it's served at the following times. We drink it at breakfast at around 3 to 5 p.m. for snack time. Anytime there's a guest, the guest cannot leave the house without drinking tea. And it's really rude to have the tea ready for the guest. Like you have to like go and prepare it so that you're not rushing the guest to leave, you know what I mean? So anytime there's a guest, and then we sometimes offer it with cookies, pastries, things like that. For any big occasion too, we're going to serve tea. And we do drink coffee as well, but I would say like generally tea is served first. And then if you really want coffee, then you go and make it. But yeah, and we have this like tradition, the lady's showing off a little bit, but yeah, you kind of go all the way up to have the most foam possible. And yeah, everybody can do this. It runs in our DNA, and it's rare that you meet a Moroccan person that doesn't drink tea. It's very, very rare. Yeah, and so speaking of which, the tea tradition is really important for us because like we just like plate it nicely, and we like to show off a little bit to our guests, but it's also part of our identity as a people because things that look good are part of, I don't know how to explain this, but like we like aesthetics a lot. So for example, this is a normal living room. This is not even the nice one. This is just a normal living room for us. We're going to invest a lot of money, like finding the perfect tapestries and whatnot so that it's like aesthetically pleasing. The mosaics are very like Moroccan. This is a hotel, but as you can see, the style is very like, I don't know how to explain it, Moroccan, the arches and whatnot. If you go as a tourist, these are like plates that you can buy. So there's a lot of detail and a lot of art and even like the most trivial things. This is the Mosque Hassan II in Casablanca, my favorite mosque ever, because look at like, it's so beautiful. There's a picture later on, you'll see. But yeah, so even the tea, like when we serve it, look, there's a little bit of like aesthetics in it and design. So that's really important for you guys to know about Morocco. We are super proud of our craftsmanship. For Canada, Tim Hortons, completely different. Now, Tim Hortons is kind of like Dunkin' Donuts for you guys, but for us, it's like Tim Hortons is everywhere. There's one in every neighborhood, sometimes one every street. What we sell is donuts, coffee, and it's super cheap. It really is super cheap, and we're trying to keep it that way as much as possible. And we are so obsessed with Tim Hortons that like in February, we have like a national competition. This is not a joke, like it's true, that in like the cups that they make, then they make you like roll up the rim to win. And then you can win a car, you can win a donut, you can win a coffee. We're really obsessed with this. So this year we couldn't do it because of COVID, but and people are really sad about it. Like they tried to put it on a mobile app and people just did not want to. They wanted to roll up the rim. But anyway, so Tim Hortons, if ever you go to Canada, you have to go. It's really good. So let's go and fill the glasses. So category best climate. This is a hard one because in Morocco, like climates are quite different, I would say. So this is the city of Marrakesh. You've got your palm trees, it's super hot, there's no beach in the city. So this would be more or less here, Marrakesh. You've got the city of Ifrane, which is like, there's snow, as you can see. Like, people don't believe me when I tell them like snow is a thing in Morocco, but it is. So Ifrane is more or less here. And then the Sahara Desert is the south of Morocco. Like, it starts more or less here. And we share the desert with other countries such as Algeria and Tunisia and whatnot. Essaouira is a beautiful city more towards the south. And as you can see, like, we've got the Atlantic Sea and whatnot. And we have a lot of like cities that now people go to shoot movies in. It's also part of the industry that we have, like Ais Ben Haddou, which is like, it's conserved as it was years and years ago. In Canada, snow, of course, but then the fall season is the best because you've got your trees. They're all so beautiful like that. And the summer, people don't believe that there is a summer in Canada, but there is. I mean, it's super hot. It gets to, I'm going to tell you the number in degrees, but I can't tell you in Fahrenheit. 35 degrees, like, is a big one. 32, 35. It's really hot, but it's humid. And in the spring, like, it is pretty. It is definitely very pretty. So to each their own, I guess. But for me, it's a definite win from Morocco, just because, like, look at this. Like, there's so much variety, and there's the beach, etc. So that's a win for Morocco. So the next category is best food. That's honestly quite hard for me to decide. We have a few like dishes that we are very proud of. Actually, Morocco is often in the leaderboard in terms of world cuisine because we do this thing where we mix like sweet and savory a lot. So if it's a wedding, we will serve like a bastila, which is like this is chicken mostly and puff pastry. Yeah, puff pastry. Yeah, and then we have like tagines, which are stews with mix of vegetables and meat. And then couscous, of course, you guys all know couscous, but this is like a traditional couscous. And we have like a normal day, we would eat this, like tatao zitoun, potatoes, olives, chicken, lemon, as stew. Now, here's the interesting part about Moroccan food. Number one, we eat with bread a lot. So like I told you, like a lot of our foods are stews. So we don't really use it like a fork. I know there's forks over here, but really we only use them to eat the salads. And they just take bread, they put it in their hands like this is the motion. You put a little bit of bread here, and then you go ahead and you dip it in the stew and then you eat it. That's it. So all of us, we sit around the table and we eat like this. And the best part, and I just realized because for me this was normal, but no, it's not. We have one dish. We serve everything on one dish, and then everybody sits around it and we dig in. We don't serve individual dishes unless, like, here it's kind of to keep the table clean, as you can see, but nobody's really using it. Or if it's a kid who's going to make a mess, then we give him his own dish. But otherwise, everybody who wants to eat has to sit at the big table, and we usually eat in the living room. So this is perfect. There's a few tourists, and as you can see, we can fit a lot of people in around the table. The tables even are circular, so it shows you the unity and the family spirit. Poutine for Canada. That was just a little joke. So poutine is the other one. So that's why I'm telling you it's so hard, because poutine is really good as well. So if ever you do go to Canada, ask for poutine. You're gonna have a food coma for a little bit, but it's okay, it's worth it. So it's just fries, gravy, and cheddar cheese mostly. There can be other types of cheese, but it's usually cheddar. And fun fact, in French, this cheese is called fromage squish squish, because if you like the sound of the cheese is squish squish. So imagine, it's a real thing. We called it like that. The other thing that people don't know much about, I mean, you guys know we're famous for maple, but you don't know how we consume it. So the maple season is really February to April. And if you want to go and have like a proper maple meal, then what you do is like you go outside of the city and you go to what we call a cabane à sucre in French, or sugar shack. And then they will like serve you, this is the big one, but everybody sits like this in those like rectangular tables. And there's a bunch of dishes with maple in them. Some of them shouldn't have maple on them, but they put like eggs plus maple, beans plus maple, everything that you want. You add the maple, and then the best part, when you want to leave, then they take the maple, they pour it on snow, and it's called maple taffy. And you just like take it with a popsicle like that. So if you're diabetic, don't take this, because once I went, like the first time I went, and I ate like 12 popsicles, and it was great. But yeah, so maple. So as you can see, like it's really hard for me to choose, honestly, but I gotta go in Morocco because I grew up with that food and it reminds me of home a lot. Next category, healthcare and higher education. Okay, so this is simple enough. Canada, we have free healthcare, but vision and dental are not covered. Meds are not always covered. It depends. Like if you're a student, it's fine, but if you're an adult, then most of the time you pay for the meds. But it's mainly free, I would say. In Morocco, it is insurance-based like it is here, but it's quite expensive, but not as expensive as it is here, for sure. So that's for healthcare. And then for higher ed, this is complicated to get in. So if you guys are interested, please leave a question in the chat. But it's fairly cheap for Canadians to go to university. So for example, me, I paid about $3,500 US dollars like for per year only, but like that doesn't include like dorms and stuff because we don't really do that. Most people go to universities in urban settings and then they rent. But yeah, this is just the cost of tuition, and you pay a little bit less. I mean, you pay a normal amount, I like to say, if you're in province. But if I am from Quebec and I decide to go study in British Columbia, then I would pay like 5,000 US because I'm from out of province. International students pay a lot, but I think for you guys from the US, it comes to about the same. Yeah. So for Morocco, it depends if you go to a public or private uni, but a lot of students actually go abroad. If their parents have the means to send them abroad, they send them abroad because that guarantees that they're, I mean, it increases the value of the degree, as you can imagine. And that's why I said, let's talk about it later if you have questions, because it's very complicated. The winner is definitely Canada for the affordability of education and healthcare, of course. And Morocco has a lot to go for sure in that aspect. Diversity of people. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to guess before I actually show you. Do you guys want to guess which one is going to win? Is it going to be Morocco? Just mentally, is it going to be Morocco or Canada? Let's take a look. So Canada, Canada's multiculturalism is known around the world because we do receive a lot of immigrants, and then we are very nice. Like that's our reputation. So you can imagine that the equation is going to be like, we are an open-minded people, and we like really celebrate that diversity. It is true. The only thing is that I would say immigrants usually go to the big cities and don't necessarily go to the small towns. So if you go to a small town, not as diverse as in big cities, of course. So just to show you an example in Toronto, yeah, so like, look, more than like a little bit less than half of the population is actually not white. So that's pretty cool. That means that if you grow up in Toronto, then half of your friends are going to be Filipino, Chinese, Arab, West Asian, Korean, Japanese, etc., etc. And that was also the reality for me in Montreal. Montreal, I'm going to show you the linguistic map. As you can see here, most of like Montreal, the home like language is actually Arabic, and I'm pretty proud of that, to be honest. But it's Arabic from like Lebanon, Morocco, Algeria, to each your own Arabic. But then there's also like Greek, Bengali, Spanish, Italian, Greek, etc., etc. So I would say like we really are big on maintaining that home language, because Montrealers are known for being like, at least trilingual. Because like English, French, and then you add whatever language your parents spoke to you when you were growing up. For sure. So yeah, so that's about the diversity of Canada. Morocco. So I was thinking like, what can I tell you about diversity in Morocco? And to be honest, we don't have a lot of immigrants, to be honest with you. But because the climate is so diverse, if you remember what I showed you earlier, this actually impacts also the way we look. So there's no like average Moroccan woman or man, I guess, because like depending on the region where you're from in Morocco, and I know like it's a small country, but still like there's the Sahara, and then there's the places where it snows, etc. It really impacts the way you look. So for me, for example, I'm pretty tan, and you would assume I'm coming from the south, but kind of like I have a grandparent who comes from the desert, and I'm the only one who's actually really tan in my family, and the other ones are pretty light. But it's another story. But as you can see, like some people have very light eyes, some people are more tan, some people have more like black eyes, black hair kind of thing. So it is like, there's no way to really picture the traditional Moroccan face. Although, fun fact, we are able to recognize each other on the street. Like not based on the language that we speak, but it's just like, there's a thing, I'm able to recognize them. And Algerians look similar to us as well, so yeah. The winner is Canada for sure. Definitely, like I grew up like around so many languages and cultures, and you can just order any food that you want in Montreal. Like Malaysian food, you order it, you got it, no problem. It's so easy. All right, so in the category of celebrations of life events, wedding, grads, babies, you guys can guess it's probably going to be Morocco who wins. And you are right, because I mean, it is like a big celebration. So Indian weddings are known for being like super extra. They are more extra than we are, but we're close enough. So it lasts for about a day, maybe 2 days with breaks. But Moroccan weddings are known for 3 things. Like if you ask a Moroccan person, like why do you like weddings? They're probably going to answer differently based on what they like. I mean, most women will tell you like, oh, fashion, because that's for the occasion that we get to wear these dresses. Like, we don't go into the streets wearing this. It's just like for a wedding, right? Some people will tell you, oh, it's the music, it's the vibe, and that's what I like the most, and I'll tell you about it in a sec. Some people will tell you it's the food for sure, and they would be right as well. So Moroccan weddings, let's take a look. The best part is the vibe and the music. These people are, they're called like the orchestra in Arabic, but really I call them like the hype crew because there's only about like 5 of them. They come with their live instruments and their only role is to hype the crew. So what they do is like they play music that everybody knows, like very, very old songs, and then everybody sings along. So let's go ahead and listen to or watch actually like a wedding. This is just the beginning of the wedding. Like they just came in and it's a small wedding. This is just the family. And this actually happened in Moroccan wedding held in France. So a little bit of context before I play it. This is the hype crew. The mother of the bride is somewhere around here. The groom is like, I don't remember where he is, but he's gonna pop up. There's no bride yet. She didn't show up yet because this is the beginning of the wedding. And just note that this is like a $20, 20 euro bill that they're like, yeah, you will see like that money is, they put money in their hats to show their appreciation, the guests. So let's go ahead and watch this. It goes on and on. I wish I could show you all of it, but it's too long. So yeah, this is just the beginning. And then for the rest of the wedding, then they play like more songs, but then they move into the actual like that. This is like this. We're not showing off all the decorations because it's just the entryway, but then it looks more like, sorry. It looks more like this on the inside. At the end of the wedding, the bride, like usually she goes on this like, it's called in Arabic Amaria, but it's really a chair, I guess, and then the groom as well. And then they're held by these people. I don't think I would ever do this. I'm really scared that like it slips and then, because it could happen, like I've seen it, like some people fall, you know? Yeah, it's a risk that you have to be willing to take. So yeah, that's a Moroccan wedding for you. We invite everyone to our wedding, so if ever you meet a Moroccan person, make friends with them because like it's a big problem. Like they cost a lot of money and then people get offended if you don't invite them. And you know that our families are very big. Like if you have about 8 people in your family, then you have to count their like spouses and the kids. And yeah, 500 people is a normal amount, I would say. All right, so now the next category is, oh yeah, about Canada. For big life milestones, it was really hard for me to find this info, but I asked my friends about like, how is it different from the US? And they told me like, generally speaking, Canadian weddings are actually a bit smaller than American weddings. I don't know how much true this is, but my Canadian friends, they said this. And then as a guest, you'll attend a lot of weddings influenced by the groom and bride's cultures. So I have, like, my mom already attended like an Afghan wedding, a Bengali wedding, etc. So it depends on who your friends are. So the winner is definitely Morocco for sure. Next category, public transportation. Now in Canada, public transportation in big cities is great. It's we have buses, subways, trains, even tramway as well, and like, or a combination of these things. People do bike a lot. People, like drivers, are super annoyed by this, but people do bike a lot. It is quite affordable, popular, easy to use, environmentally friendly. As you can see here, it says 100% power-based. And then we also have Uber and taxis. But in smaller cities, I would say, just like here, having a car is a must because there is no public transportation in smaller cities, and not in all of them. In Morocco, the fun fact that I wanted to share with you is that, I mean, we have public transportation, but people prefer to take their own car or hire a taxi. And the fun fact is that every city has its own taxi color. So remember what I told you about the aesthetics? Like, it's really important. So all the cabs in Marrakesh are going to be yellow and they cannot be another color. But then if you go to Casablanca, they're all red. Yeah, so it's interesting. The winner is definitely Canada. And to finish off, before I let my colleague Rebecca talk about Germany, a few places I recommend for you guys to visit. We have La Ville de Quebec, Quebec City in the winter in Canada. Definitely go in the winter. It's like a winter wonderland, Christmas and the lights and whatnot. It's great. New Brunswick in the summer if you want to go to the beach. Toronto if you like urban cities and nightlife and whatnot. Toronto is the place to go. Montreal in the fall because it's gorgeous. And then you have a little bit of a European vibe because we have that like old part of the city that is one of the only places like that, to be honest with you. And Banff, of course, which you see all over the internet. In Alberta, if you want to do a road trip, Alberta would be more or less here. In Morocco, it depends where you want to go because every city has its own vibe. So Marrakesh is what we call the red city because there's a law, aesthetics again, there's a law that says like no house can be another color than this color. It's great, I love it. So as you can see, but I mean the inside of the house, you're allowed to do whatever you want, but the outside has to be red to keep the aesthetics. And this is our most touristic city. So if ever you do go, it's not super expensive to fly. I mean, from Europe, I would say. But if you do go, negotiate like there's no tomorrow because we are also really like business savvy and we make tourists pay like 20 times the amount that they should be paying, to be honest. So do negotiate and do threaten to leave and whatnot. If you like more like Mediterranean and blue, white cities, Greece type cities, I guess, then we have a few as well. We have Chefchaouen, which is the blue city that you see on Instagram. Again, like no house can be another color than blue. And then we have other cities like Tétouan or Tangier or Al Hoceima, which have this vibe of like blue, white, and then there's the beach and whatnot. Essaouira is one of my favorite cities. It's gorgeous. You've got your beach right here. It has like its old like, I don't know what the word in English for this is, to be honest with you, but in French, des remparts, because it protects the city. And then if you want to do a Sahara trip, it looks like this, but then at night, a lot of people don't know this, but you can, like, if you're in the Sahara at night, you see the stars really well, obviously. You don't think about it, but really it is like that. And if you want to go like and feel like in Game of Thrones, go to, there's a few, actually Game of Thrones was shot partly in Essaouira, so just so you know, and then there's a few cities that were used by Hollywood a lot. To finish off, my city, Casablanca, has the beautiful Mosque Hassan II, which my students know because it's my background. Not exactly this picture, but yeah. So as you can see, it is quite majestic. And there's a few things to see in Morocco and in Canada.